I'm going to start the course. So basically, we're going to be in soil. Because before, because you want to be feeding the soil and not the plants. And basically nature has a natural cycle where it produces its own food. And so basically what happens is the plants will shed their leaves and you will get here an accumulation of leaves on the floor, and also you will have an old tree that will die and it will fall, and you will have wood, you will have leaves, you will have this on the bed of the forest, and it's ongoing decomposition. And basically So basically you get a natural cycle where you have the plant that produces its own fertilizing carbon, and it will get broken down by the mycelium in the floor. You have the mushrooms, and also by termites or by by the termites or by the ants, by mycelium in the floor. They will break down all the organic matter, the carbon, and actually then make it available also for the plants through the bacteria, and the worms will eat it also, and it becomes available for the plant to absorb and to use it to make photosynthesis. And so basically after it drops and gets transformed and broken down and then transformed to be available for the plant, after it's used to create photosynthesis, and then the cycle starts over again. So basically it's an endless cycle that will always function. And this is basically the natural cycle, which is basically one, and then you have an industrial one. And so basically in a natural cycle, the plant produces its own food, and then it gets transformed by all living organisms, and it's used again, and it just is forever. So you will never have problems. It's just natural balance. It's been working for millions of years. And then we get to industrial production of plants, which is always, they want to sell you the next product. And so you're going to start doing, for example, your monoculture, and you want to start growing food. And you're just gonna buy fertilizer in the shop that's comes in little white granules that you're gonna sprinkle over your land. And basically they are based on NPK, which are the three major elements that are used by plants. And so you just put some fertilizer and it will go into the floor. It's water soluble, so basically it's actually a salt, and in the salt they secluded the three major elements that plants need to grow. But it's very, very, very rich, and so you overfeed the plants, and when you put it on the floor and it's going to be used, when the water comes, the plants will only be able to absorb it when it passes through, and 20% will be used by the plant, but the rest washes off into the water, into the ocean, so you don't use all what you're putting, and it doesn't stay in the floor. Once it passed, the plant absorbed it when it was drinking, it's gone. You need to fertilize again. So basically it's food that's going to last every week or every 2 weeks. You're going to have to fertilize again your field to actually have food again in the floor. So I call this fast food. As the opposite of food, because this is actually gonna last you a month to 3 months to 6 months. As long as there is material in the floor, it's decaying, the elements are there, and you can just keep adding from the top, but it will last you way longer, because once this is finished, I can plant again different plants inside. It's still good, and I won't have to add more fertilizer. So you get real food, and then you get fast food. It just goes through and it's gone, and you need to go and get some again. And the thing is, it's so rich that the plants will take it through the biggest roots, and they will start looking really, really like very fat and shiny, and like when you go in a shop and you can see immediately the different food, how they have been grown. They look like very beefed up, and they're like very full of nutrients, and like they will look also more appetizing for insects and pests. And then pests will come, and yeah, you put money in these crops, you're doing your monoculture, you just put food, you have pests coming, so you're going to kill the pest. So you're going to get a pesticide, and you're going to spray to kill the insect. But this is also going to go in the floor, and it will kill living organisms in your floor as well. But you need the living organisms to actually transform the food. So you're killing the living organisms in your floor as well. And then you're going to harvest, you're going to get your harvest, and you're going to make your money, and you're going to grow again. And maybe that next year, you're going to have mushroom on one corpse. And there will be mushroom, you're going to use a fungicide. And so you're going to start killing with fungicide. And so you're going to spray the fungicide, but the fungicide will also go in the floor. And then the floor will also have no more fungi in it. So you won't have as much living organism, no more fungi, and no food, because you're putting basically chemical fertilizer. So in the end, you're going to have a dead soil, and you're going to get erosion, and you're going to get problems. And the longer you work like this, the more expensive it will become for you to actually produce food on that land. So in the long term, it's not rentable, because you kill your soil, and then you just need to do more money input. So fast foods and food, that will last you a long time. Yeah. So basically, what you want to be doing is feeding the soil, because the plant is growing on the soil. So you feed the soil, and the plant comes and gets the nutrients it needs to grow. But you're not feeding the plant, just putting some food and the plant gets the food. No, you want to keep the good bacteria alive and at its peak, because they will make the food available for the plants. And you want to keep it alive, not dead. So that's just the basic explanation of the soil and the function of like a natural cycle and the industrial cycle. That's basically people who used to make like gases and poisons during the war and then recycle themselves into selling fertilizer, because they used to actually gas people. So do you have any questions about the basic function from this? No? Cool. So that's just a basic explanation of the two opposite way of farming and how the soil functions. Anda mengerti semua? Anda, if ada yang Anda tidak mengerti, jangan takut diminta tahu sama saya. Atau nanti saya bisa dikasih informasi lagi. Itu cuma sedikit sistem seperti apa tanah hidup.
Yesterday I saw a story that the guy took a big bottle and put some garden inside of the bottle, and
You close the bottle, yeah, and then it becomes like a biotope. Yeah, exactly. And you can do it with a big one or a small one, and basically you only water it one time, because once it's closed, the transpiration and the water stays inside, and you create it's a microbiotope inside the bottle. But he did this in a big bottle, like this, a big jug, and they never opened it again, and it's autosufficient inside. Yeah. So, which takes us to building soil. So you have 1,372 ways to build soil. I'm going to explain 4 to you. And so basically, start with compost. I will take compost. We will go like I will explain a way of doing compost on long term, and then a fast compost that is basically going to be like on 1 to 2 year base, or this one is going to be 21 to 30 days, and then vermicast. And the worm tower. So I'm more going to go in depth onto fast composting today and on how to make this kind of compost, and then I'm going to show you vermicasting is basically with composting worms, and this is like another system, but I'm not going to go so much into depth because it's a whole chapter of its own. And then you also have the worm tower. It's different system that you can apply into different ways in function of where you want to be using it. The worm tower is like a little tower that you make and you put in the garden where you need it. But so I will go through go through each of them one by one. Worm castings. And so we get worm castings. So basically, we feed the soil, not the plants. It's very important to remember that we're feeding the soil. And so when you want to start building your compost, you have the elements that you're going to bring into them. So what elements are we all made from? How do you know if you could actually compost something or not? you simply ask yourself, has it been alive? Because if it has been alive, you can compost it and you can reuse it to make it available for another plant after again. So it's, has it been alive? Has it lived? And basically, you have carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and water. It's all the elements we all need to live. All living things on Earth need carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and water to live. In your compost, proportions will be important for it to decompose properly and easily. So usually you're gonna have 20 to 30 parts of carbon for 1 part of nitrogen. The oxygen is just you aerate it, so it's like you can't really like take the oxygen and like put it in your compost. It's just aerated. And then water, you're gonna have 50 to 60% of humidity. You keep it to 50 to 60% of humidity so it keeps decaying properly. And this is all you need to make your compost. What do you think are sources of carbon that you can take to put into the compost?
Any food leftovers?
Yes, but food leftovers who are wet or nitrogen. Carbon is anything that has dried out already and it's just the carbon left inside. And the food scraps, they are nitrogen, so they're the 1 part. And carbon is the alang-alang, the leaves, the carbox, dried carboxes. Yeah, easy. But here we don't have that problem. It's always falling leaves. But in Europe, there is a moment you don't have leaves falling anymore because it's summer. So you need carbon to make your compost. But you have a lot of carbox. So you just shred up your carbox and you use that as a base for carbon. So alang-alang or like dried up, a shot for your head. dried up materials, everything that's basically brown carbon. And this you can use then and mix it together with nitrogen. Where can we get nitrogen? It's everything wet and still green. So like food scraps are the best, kitchen scraps. That's like, they will fire up your compost and they work really well. But you always want to be using them kind of as fast as you can. Otherwise they start smelling bad, and so you shouldn't store them too long. You can use weeds. You can use anything that is green, basically, that you took away from somewhere, and you can just use it in there. When I cut the trees, I shred the branches with my shredder, and then you get the woody part that will be carbon, but the green part is actually the nitrogen. And so when you trim your plants, you can actually use it into your compost and make food with it. I have the alang-alang there, and the alang-alang that comes from the kitchen place already has the fertilizer from the chicken, so it's already fertilized as well with manure of the chicken. Because it's very interesting, when you make a compost, try to have as much different origins of what you are composting, so you get something very rich in different elements. Don't just go like, I take cardboard and I take one kind of plant. It's gonna be less different kind of elements, which makes sense. So you want to mix it up properly. Bon, oxygen you get available everywhere. When you mix it and you put it in, the oxygen is there. And then basically water, you need to water your compost when you're making it to have 50 to 60% humidity in it. But this I will show you a squeeze test we can do after when we make the compost this afternoon. And that's what you need then. And so once you have everything you need in proportions, you can start making your compost pile. So the one I'm going to show is basically a Berkeley method. And so basically you're going to get your carbon, and you put dry materials at the bottom first, and you mix them as you go up, one layer at a time, and you just keep building up like this.
Next, what is Berkeley?
It's the name of the person that started doing this fast system of compost. So it's a type of compost, is the name of the guy. The name of the person who invented it. And so basically you keep working your way up, and if you want to make a compost, you're going to have to be making 1 cubic meter. Otherwise it's not going to work. It's not going to be functioning and heating up properly. So it won't break down as fast. And so what I do is I always put the pipe in the middle to make it easy for, if there is excess moisture inside, it can just go out, and so it aerates the compost from the inside. I will show you after. And so basically, as you work your way up, you do carbon, so you will put the alang-alang, or you will put the leaves of the forest, or you will put other kind of things, and you make a layer, and you do one dry, one wet, one dry, one wet. And what I do usually is the kitchen scraps, I put them around the middle as I work my way up. One meter cubic. And so if you're in a place where it's raining a lot and you're in a place where it's low, you don't want the compost to get too wet. So basically you need to cover it, and if it's in a pit where you know water gathers, put some branches down so it's elevated, so the water doesn't soak the compost up, because then it's going to stop the heat and it's going to stop the decomposition. So after this, so when you do the compost, you need 1 cubic meter. So if you make a triangle like this, you make it this high the first day basically, and then after it's just going to drop down by itself, but you start with a cubic meter. And so 1 to 3 days, you leave this 1 to 3 days. I would leave it 3 days, and then you're going to mix it. And basically when you mix it, you want to aerate it, but you want to redistribute the heat, because what's going to happen is going to be first, in the first 3 days, you're going to be in the mesophilic stage. And so basically it's the moment where it starts heating up in the beginning, and the decomposition is picking up, and the heat is picking up inside the compost pile. And so that's the first one we saw. It wasn't that hot yet, but it was already starting to heat up. And so what you will do is you will basically take the outside of your compost, and this you're going to bring to the next pile, and it will become the inside of your compost. And so this one goes there, and then what's inside of your compost, you're going to bring outside of your compost. So what's in goes out, and what's out goes in, because outside is cold and inside is very hot, and the bacteria who are decomposing everything are really active in the center of the pile. So you want to redistribute them around the part that wasn't really active at the beginning, so it all decomposes at the same rate, and you redistribute the wet.
Then it means you will mix your layers.
Yes.
Is it okay to mix layers?
Yes. You put it in layers down first, and then you mix all. You will see after. And so it's important to make the layers in the first beginning part, and then after here you don't have layers anymore. Here it's just what's outside goes in and what's inside goes out. And you basically take the heat and redisperses around it, and what was outside that's cold goes in the middle, and the middle will heat up again, and it will just break everything down. when you open it, you will see it's white and you already have decomposition. I have 2 piles going already there, and we will make one this afternoon. And so that's the first time is 1 to 3 days. And if you really want to, you can mix every day, but we mix it every 2 days because every day is a lot of work. But then it will go faster, it will decompose faster. But I would mix it every 2 days. And basically, you're gonna keep mixing it every 2 days until you get to 21 or 30 days, and that you basically have your compost pile that is ready to be used. So you keep mixing it every 2 days. So it's quite heavy duty work. But if you get 1 cubic meter of compost, you can actually feed quite a lot with that. So that will take 21 to 30 days to build your compost before it's ready. In the beginning, it's really like a little bit hot, and then you get to a part where it's really firing up. You will see the difference. I have 1 pile now is at 40 degrees, and the other one is at 50 degrees Celsius inside. You cannot leave your hand inside, you would burn yourself. It's like you put your hand, you're like, whoa, that's hot. And so that's the fast method. And then as you go along, what happens sometimes is when you're mixing it, you mix it, and say around 8 days, you get to 8 days, you mix it, but you see it's starting to smell or there is something not right. If it's getting too wet, you can add a little bit of sawdust, surut, tarika ayunia, to make it more dry. And it will actually soak up the excess humidity, and you can adapt it as you go. The idea is you never really do an addition of your compost because it will start everything over again. But if you see there is not enough heat, you can add some food scraps, or you can just add a piece of fish or a piece of meat inside. It will fire up the compost again, and it will really get it hot again, because you want the decomposition to be having place. If it rains a lot, it's gonna get completely soaked. If you didn't cover it, your compost will not be decomposing anymore. So you will be starting over again. So here in the tropics, you need to keep it dry. In other places, you actually need to keep it inside the room because it's too cold outside. And so it depends of where you are in the world. There is different ways of making it. But this stays the basic principle of it. And pum 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 pum.
Does it smell a lot?
If you're doing it properly, it doesn't smell. If it
I'm
smells,
always worried about the smell.
if it smells, it means you're forgetting something and you're not taking care of your compost. Yeah. You're probably
I
not.
noticed that you do it quite close to the bedrooms.
Yeah, it doesn't
I
smell.
don't feel any smell.
No. Even if it has a nice smell to it if you aerate it. It's like, what smelled a lot was the black soldier fly. I decommissioned that one and I have to make a new solution for it.
Black what?
It's not there anymore. I used to have black soldier fly, which is a basic way of upcycling food waste that you cannot really compost. So you put it there, and then the fly comes, it lays the eggs, and then you get maggots, and the maggots you feed to the chicken. And so you upcycle meat, rice, all the kind of things you cannot put really in the compost.
Why can't you put it in compost?
You can, but it's like, I like to separate it and send one there and one to the other one. I don't know, it was better for the chicken because then you get the eggs, because you get more protein, and the higher you get protein intake for the chicken, the more eggs you get from your chicken. Since I took the black soldier fly away, I have less eggs. So I give more jagung. I give more maize now. So yeah, so if it has leaf, it can live again, and we can use it to actually make compost and actually make your vegetable grows again. And then boom, 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 boom. And so basically, I will show you after about proportions, but the 20 to 30, this ratio of 1 nitrogen for 20 to 30 of carbon, it will come to you more as you make compost, because it's hard to put your head around it. It's easier I show you when we're making the compost. So that's for the fast compost. Do you have any questions for the fast compost? And now we're gonna talk about the worm.
And then when it's done, should you put it in the soil straight away, or can you keep it for one time?
It's soil, basically. So you can do whatever you want. You leave it on a pile, or you can just put it on your garden beds. You can start putting it around the alang-alang. You can use it in no-dig-raised garden beds. You build it soil, so you basically reproduce what's happening in the forest, and you have nice humus who is rich in food for the plants. I never have very long my piles. They just disappear into the garden. I don't have enough compost going on at the same time. But it's coming now. We're gonna have 3 piles, 3 cubic meter in 1 month. So yes, this is the compost. Hopla, can you see now? Warm tower. Boom. And then we come to worm castings. So what's really nice with worm castings is you don't have so much work compared to compost. Actually, it goes quite fast if you have the right tools. So the worm castings, basically, it's you use compost worms. Compost worms, they're like not earthworms. They actually live in decaying organic matter, and they like eat the organic matter, and they will eat their own weight 1 time a day. So if you have 1 kilo of worms, you can put 1 kilo of food in that bucket a day. In that bucket, it's not really a bucket. It's more like a bathtub, let's say. So if you have a bathtub, an old bathtub, it's nice because you already have a drain here that's ready to be used to take the compost tea out. And you take the bathtub and you put it on legs, and you put it at an inclined. Because then when you water it over it, the water will automatically come down and come out here in the bucket you can put. So the thing you will do is you get the water bucket, you get the bathtub, and then you get gravel that you're gonna fill up at the bottom here. You put gravel, and then you wanna put a geotextile that's basically gonna prevent organic matter, soil, and everything to go into the gravel, because you want the water to be able to go through and just have the tea come out. That's just the juice, which is a golden juice you're gonna be using to water your plants. And what's super interesting with the worms is that basically when they eat, in their gut, they will put good bacteria into the castings. And so when you put this water everywhere in your garden, you're getting the good bacteria up. And the good bacteria help to deteriorate the organic materials that are in the floor and make it available for the plants to absorb. So you're boosting the life inside your floor, basically. And so then what I do is I put a lot of cow manure. And then on the top side, I'm gonna put all my kitchen scraps every day. And then I put car boxes. And then you have like also coconut inside, and you make a little house, and the worms are here, and they just travel here everywhere, and they will really eat the cow manure really fast. And the cow manure will after that become worm castings, and you can actually, I will show you after, you can see it, that where it's like transformed into basically fertilizer. The castings from the earthworms are so rich that even the groundworms still eat that, because it's still full of nutrients. And basically when you get worm castings, I put like this of my hand into the compost and mix it, and it's like a boost. Or you put it a little bit, but it's like, don't use too much of it because you will burn your plants. The water, basically, what you do is once it's full and it's set up, you water it with water, non-salty preferably. And basically you get juice that comes out here, and you have like a bucket here where you can recuperate the water. And this is liquid gold, but you need to dilute it until it's, I will show you how to dilute it, because it's so rich, you will actually burn plants. I've killed plants with that because it was too rich for the plants. And it's super organic. Once it's set up, you just come and put your kilo of food here in the morning, and you close it, and you water it 1 time in the afternoon, and you just have your juice, and you water the garden, and you're fertilizing, and it's super easy. Once they finish transforming the manure into casting, you open it up, and you leave one place in the shade. They don't like sun, so they will all go and hide there, and you take all the casting out, and you fill it up again. So it's less heavy work and more fertilizing, but you also need to follow it up. Like if you get mice come in, I had mice come in, they eat all my worms. I had ants coming, they eat all my worms. So you need to keep it wet because keeping it wet prevents the ants. But also you need to keep it closed properly because the mice come in and then after they will eat all inside, and so then you don't have your worms anymore. And then yeah, you don't have fertilizer anymore. So that's worm castings, and this is
And what kind of water do you use?
me. I use simply PDIM water or rainwater. If you have a catchment system and you have rainwater that falls, you can use that water and you just water it over.
I mean, is it okay to use this
Well water?
water, salty water?
Well, what? I think we use that. Hamdi, Juan, kapan anda siram cacing, anda siram pakai air semur atau pakai air apa?
Air tomera, air
Yeah. Yeah. Non-salty, not breakage water, not from the well. No. We tried it one time, I think, in the past, but then since I have my catching, so I upcycle all the water and the water gets caught into the red bucket there, and so I have like 5,000 liters of water that is stored that is not salty, but that is also the water that we use here, gets recycled and goes there, and we use that to water the garden, to water the worms, to water whatever. And when that one is empty, then we use another system that is basically our RO system. It's not so ecological. Not yet. When we'll have solar, it will be. So that's for worm castings, and this is really like, in terms of the amount of space you're using and the amount of fertilizing you get out of it, is the most rentable, because you just have a small bucket, a small bathtub in one place. I do it with blue barrels that I cut in half and then I put them down, and I will show you after. So that's really nice. And then after you have the worm tower.
Is it slower or faster than previous method?
Fast compost is the one where you will get the most soil out of, but this one is the one that will be the easiest to actually keep feeding your garden. But you're not gonna be building soil. You build soil, but it's worm casting. So it's basically you're building very rich soil to fertilize your garden. But it's not like you're gonna be able to do no degrades garden beds because you won't have any volume, and you cannot plant into the worm castings right away. You will have to mix it with something else, or the plants will just burn up. So it's complementary. If you have garden beds, it's interesting because you just take some, you sprinkle it up, you scratch it, and it will enhance the bacteria in the floor, and it will enhance the food in the floor as well. So it depends on how you use it. It's a different system of producing food. If you produce small garden beds in your place and you don't want to build your compost yourself, you can always come and get to I make compost. You can get that compost, but you can always keep feeding your plants and the things you have with this one as well. You need less space, and it's more rich fertilizer. They actually sell this juice as EM pad bottles. It's basically the same as EM pad. And then you have the worm tower, and this is like the perfect solution for in a small villa or for in a house or something where you have beds and you want to fertilize but you don't want any work. It's a one-time job. Basically what you do is you take a 4-inch pipe and then basically here you have the soil, boom, and this is 20 centi, this is 50 centi, so you're gonna have 70 centi up, and then the part that is under the floor you're gonna make holes in. And then what you're going to do is you're going to dig out the hole. In the bottom, you will put down a layer of cardboard. Cardboard is really our best friend because it's like carbon. The worms love eating carbon, but they will also make it kind of waterproof, so it will prevent the food to go away too fast, and it will keep it inside the pipe. And basically, this is a 4-inch pipe. You get 50 inside the floor and 20 out because you always want to have mulch on top of the floor. Because if it's like mulch will protect what's alive in the floor and will make it easier, so you can mulch around this later. That's why it's 20 high on top. Basically this here, what you do is you take your food scraps, you come and you just keep adding them inside. You just put them inside and then you close it with a lid. You can buy the 4-inch pipe, and they sell the lids for the 4-inch pipe as well. Or you just take a bamboo potong and you put the bamboo on top of it. It depends of if it has to look nice or not. And once you close it off, it's in the floor. You don't get nuisables, you don't get smell, you don't get insects. It's like away in the floor. You can use one of these for 3 meters of land where you have plants. And it's just, you put it in and close it. And the worms inside the floor, they will come and feed, and they will go in. And basically, you're creating this, but in the floor on the place you need it. And it will feed the garden around it. And you don't need the space to actually make this one. So that's for a worm hotel. Worm restaurant, maybe?
But then they have to take out
No.
what they made.
You leave it, it goes down. And then you open it. If it went down, you put more, you close it. You leave it there. It will feed all the garden around it.
How can it go down? You mean through cardboard?
No. So what happens is the worm come and they eat, and then they poop here and they eat and they open, they eat, and the worms will make it go down. And so you fill it up to the top every time, and it will go down by itself. And the older it becomes, the faster it will actually go, because the worms, you need to, in the beginning, you need the time that the worms know it's there, and they come and look, they come and eat. And then after it just goes down. Never push it down. Just put it full and close it up. And then you go to the next hole. If you take a 4-meter pipe, you can make a couple with those, and you put it a bit everywhere in the garden, and it's just, you put it in, you close it. You go to the next one, you close it. If you have a system, you can get to the last one, you get back to the first one, it's already lower, so you can feed that one again. And so you get a cycle where you never need to actually throw your food waste into the bin. It actually goes into your garden, and you're fertilizing your garden.
So good and so easy.
And fertilizing your garden with your food scraps. And no smelly bin. Because that's the biggest problem of bins, is it's smelly. Yuck. So, yeah. And so it's all about feeding the soil and not the plants. Because the plants will eat that again, this liver again, tropical zone, wood chippings, boom, boom. And so basically, when you're making the compost as well, but I will show you after, we make it as small as possible, but we will do the practical course more this afternoon. But do you have any questions about the systems that I explained so far? This afternoon we will do all the practical bits and like make a compost. They're already preparing all the ingredients. It's good, it's lazy composting for us today. We don't need to go to the forest. Tell me.
Is it smells?
No, it doesn't smell because it's inside the floor. The holes are inside the floor.
Perfect.
And then you just close it.
Yeah.
So when it's
50
closed,
centimeters below the ground.
yeah, 50 in the floor,
I think
minimum.
And so how much time does it take to empty? for the
It
worms?
depends of the worms.
From your experience.
I think you need to check every day.
You come and you look. I never made a table where I actually looked at how fast they go down, but my experience is that the longer it's been installed, the better it works, because the life around it in the floor installed itself around that little feeding tower. So they know the food is there, and they're there, and they come and they eat, and it's nice to be able to close it, because you don't get the mice, you don't get all the other things. Me, I have like biawak that come, like the lizard comes here to eat in my compost. And I have mice, and I have all kind of things because it's open. But in this one, it's in the floor, so it won't attract any non-desired insects or, yeah. And so also you don't get flies or anything. You can see there is a little bit of flies around the compost, which is interesting when you're doing a compost. But if it's a small house and you like I could have this system here inside those garden beds, no problem. Because it's closed, it's there in the floor, and it wouldn't smell, and it wouldn't be a nuisance. But I cannot make a compost here. That's going to be a nuisance. But the insects and the flies, you want them, because they're going to accelerate the decomposition of your compost. But that's why I'm giving 3 systems, so you can apply the one you want where you actually think you need it. Anda mengerti semua? Ya? Anda mengerti ini sistemnya pakai cacing, ya? Cacing kompos, bukan cacing tanah. Ya? Itu sistem bathtubnya, dan nanti di atas di sini saya kasih batu kerikil di bawah, ya. Dan nanti di sini ada membran untuk tanah tidak datang campur. Kalau atau nanti airnya dia datang macet, ya. Kalau itu nanti ada komposti keluar. Dan di sini di atas saya kasih penuh kotoran sapi, di sini kardus and sedikit sayuran setiap hari. And so ini mudah. Kalau seperti EM4, air keluar ini itu terlalu subur untuk disiram tanamannya, dicampur pakai air yang disiram terserah dia. Bisa di rumput sama juga. Dia and then siram rumput sama ini. And then nanti tutup ke tidak ada hujan masuk. Kalau ada terlalu banyak air, cacing nanti dia mati. Ya? And ini hotel untuk cacing. Tapi nanti sore saya kasih lihat sistemnya, saya bikin sama Anda dan dilihat. Lebih mudah ini. Itu dulu kursus belajar. If ada yang Anda mau minta, tahu saya diminta. Oke? Ça fait 1 heure là. So, boum, boum, boum.
Why do you make raised beds?
Raised beds?
Yeah, what is the purpose?
Because I'm lazy. I don't want to dig. So basically, I will make courses about that as well, but basically no dig raised garden beds. So permaculture, you want to study a lot to do a minimum of input and to get the most back from it. So it's lazy gardening. It's the right way to do it, no? If you think about it really a lot and then you do it and you get a lot back, but you don't have to do a lot. And it's a setup, no dig raised garden beds. Basically, I'm building soil. So I go up with the coconuts. It's all organic. If I leave and I come back in 10 years, it's not a problem. It's not plastic. It's not, So when it rains a lot, the water goes away. So you get less problems of clogging water and everything. So basically, the no dig raised garden beds, it's all coconut, and then it's all cardboard at the bottom. I fill it up with alang-alang, cardboard again, and then I just make holes and put the compost inside. And so I just add from the top, add from the top, add from the top. I never dig. So I never. And they're raised, so it's not so low to actually work. And so you don't dig, you just add materials from the top. As they go down, they're going down already. You can see it was at the same level as the coconuts in the beginning. We're just gonna add compost and add alang-alang, just from the top, add it on, and it will settle itself down. And all of this is actually soil, all the black spots you see inside the alang-alang is all compost we made ourselves. It's all made here. So it's all food that didn't go to the trash, into a plastic, smelly on the roads, smelly on next to the harbor. So, and it looks nice. So yeah. And if it rains a lot, since it's a pocket of compost and alang-alang around it, you won't get stagnating water as much around the plant. And so it just filters out and goes in the bottom. And by adding it in the top, it's actually feeding the soil underneath as well. And we're protecting the soil also from erosion and getting the soil more alive again. So yeah. It's the only way I found to grow vegetables here in Gili that really works. And I've been here 7 years. I've found a lot of ways not to do it. It's the only way, the only that works also all year around. There was a lot of things I was growing in the past when I used to have a vegetable garden there, but as soon as rainy season comes, difficult, but also dry. So it holds water better when it's dry. It irrigates, it gets water away easier when it's dry. When it's raining a lot. So that's it. Yeah. The fast on the worm castings, and feeding the soil. Has it been alive? And we went around everything. Do you have any questions? What I can do you want something to drink? And I can show around the systems.